And we're back with another episode of NBA Observations. It's Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much again for joining us right here on the Lakers Fast Break. Please make sure you like and subscribe. Go ahead and hit that notification bell because I know that's been an issue lately. Oh, I don't know when your shows come up. Well, if you hit the notification bell, that little bell thingy, once you subscribe, it will let you know when the latest shows I upload or go live with come right to you on YouTube as well. So go ahead and make sure you do that. Plus, also make sure you go ahead and help out my good friend, Mr. Calif Poncy, on his platforms at the New Century Press and the Suave Report as well. Well, it is, of course, the man behind a lot of those great articles that he does there. Plus, he's a great part of what we've been doing here at NBA Observations. It is Calif Poncy. Calif, welcome to Cancun from me to you, my friend. I'm opening the door for you, as you know, with my Lakers stuff on, of course. You coming in with your OKC garb, just right there. The fishing's good. The food is terrific, and just make sure you go ahead and just wear a hat because of the weather. But the sun's good in Cancun and everything's okay.
Yeah, I guess you would have a better idea than most. They have good hamstring treatment. That's kind of what I'm most worried about with my Cancun trip. Yeah,
absolutely. Although the wonders of Spain. It didn't do good enough. Although they said they found it to be worse than what they found it to be in Dallas. So that'll tell you all you need to know, I guess. So I don't know. As I said on my show a couple weeks ago, after the season ended, Calif, I wish they just would have been honest with us and told us once they found it, more damage was done, in Spain. Once they found that, just say, hey, look, he's done. He's done. Let's just move on. Just be transparent, and there you go. I understand with OKC, they kind of just like let AJ Mitchell just drift off into the universe. Nobody said anything. It's just J-Dub, will he, won't he, will he, won't. And it was clear that obviously he was not going to come back. AJ Mitchell, they just immediately said calf strain, and that was all she wrote. They didn't give any timeline, didn't give anything, didn't say anything, which was, I'm curious from your perspective. I mean, they weren't saying that he was coming back, but they weren't saying he was gone either. They just said nothing. And just said a calf strain, and that's it. There you go.
Yeah, I think obviously the ultimate goal for OKC was they thought they had and they did. They thought they did. They clearly did have a real chance to play in the finals. And so I don't think they probably wanted to put a super definitive timeline on anyone because they wanted to leave that door open for them to come back in a very realistic possibility that they made the finals. And you don't want to kind of set expectations for injuries like this, especially in the case of Jalen Williams, where like it's just been on again, off again all season. And then with the Mitchell thing, like he was having some calf tightness before that. He finally got a strain. The Thunder are very specific. They listed as a soleus or soleus strain, which I have learned is it's deep it's like a deep calf. It's not like it's deeper than the normal one. So I imagine that means less blood flow, probably even slower healing. Isaiah Hartenstein had, I think, 2 of those this season too. So yeah, I think the world is rejoicing right now. Fair enough. People don't like OKC very much. They're the reigning champions. I get the whole gist, but I think it sucks that this series really, if we're going to be honest about it, I'm not saying that Jalen Williams would have they clearly win if he's in, but I think it clearly, a lot of what happened in this series that bogged OKC's offense down was you just can't count on Chet to do anything in this matchup, even shoot the ball, catch the ball, like literally do anything. You can barely count on him to be on the floor. And it was a lot for Jared McCain. It was basically McCain or Caruso. If it's not SGA, it's one of you guys. And Jared McCain was on Delaware Blue Coats not too long ago. And Alex Crusoe's a great player. I don't think I want him to be one of my primary initiators. So I think it's clear those guys would have made a pretty big difference in the series. But nonetheless, the NBA gods kind of smile on a different team with their injury path every year in the playoffs, it seems. And it was OKC last year, obviously, with Aaron Gordon. And then what happened to Halliburton, like just those things broke in favor of the Thunder. And so far this year, San Antonio is really, with Anthony Edwards being out, DiVincenzo being out, Jalen Williams, AJ Mitchell. They've played teams at less than 100%. So not to take away from how great they are, and we'll get into that. I was wrong. Like all year, my whole thing with them, and I mean, in my defense, kind of just banking on history. Like there's never been a team this ready this soon, and you just have to go through the wars. And in last night in OKC, they looked like the team who had been through the wars. Julian Champagnie looked like the player who had been in countless game sevens. And
Council tried to give it to you guys late with a couple turnovers.
Yeah, but I thought overall
half.
He did, but I thought overall Castle was really good. Like it,
yes.
And then Harper was amazing in those last two games, which, I mean, if you're gonna, I mean, it's pretty crazy. I don't think, I think there's a bit of a, again, because of how people feel about the Thunder, maybe a bit of a want to maybe pour dirt on their whole deal this morning on social media. I don't think that's true. I think easily we could see this, almost certainly barring injury again, we'll see this series again next year in the conference finals, and it could very easily go the other way should everyone be healthy. So I don't think either one of these teams is going away anytime soon. I think these two teams are just the class of the NBA, which we'll get to later in my finals pick. And I think I think we'll realize that the Knicks look amazing, and I think they're a really good team, and they provide some matchup issues with San Antonio for sure with their outside shooting. But I don't think that San Antonio or Oklahoma City are like human. I think that they're both so good that they made each other look human on top of injuries, really, I think hurting OKC in some specific ways against a defense like San Antonio. But yeah, all the props to San Antonio, man. Like I can't believe how well Champagnie played. How well, I mean, everyone on the team other than Vassell, I thought played a really good game yesterday for what there was expected of them or more. So props to San Antonio. OKC is going to have to go back, lick its wounds, get healthy, maybe have some hard discussions with Chet Holmgren about this specific matchup, and see what Sam Presti can pull out of the hat this time.
It's interesting that I saw on Twitter with Champagnie celebrating his victory, and then the tagline to Daryl Morey, "Let go in favor of Mac McClung in Philadelphia."
Daryl Morey giveth and Daryl Morey taketh away. That was the story of the series, was it not? I mean,
we were posting Alex. I mean, there was postings of Alex Caruso memes all throughout the past couple of seasons. THT. There you go. So now Philadelphia share our pain. And two things to that series with the Jared McCain deal as well that really helped them out. So
yeah, I mean, McCain was huge for OKC being able to get this to 7, and then I mean Champagnie was. I mean that I think it's going to fly under the radar because of the story that Wemby is. But I mean that's one of the all-time ballsy role player performances you'll see. That's widely considered to be one of the loudest, craziest environments in the NBA. It's a great defense that they were limited offensively, but I thought the Thunder defense largely, unless the Spurs were just making all their threes, which they did a few times in the series, was good. It was hard to score unless you were just hitting wide open threes. And the threes
but if you had your second leading scorer as Julian Champagnie on your draft board there, you must know something more than anybody else, because that was not what anybody expected to happen on Game 7.
Yeah, I mean, it played right into what you'd want if you're OKC, right? It's like we're injured, felt fair enough, whatever you want to say about that, but we have a Game 7 at home. We've been in these spots. This is where your role players step up, and the other ones will. And it was the opposite. It was SGA looking like everything that OKC fans says he is, that gets some pushback. Like last night was the exact evidence that OKC people need to be like, he is that good. He is that type of guy. It's not all free throws. Like he can make these impossible shots. and no one else on the whole team other than Case and Wallace stepped up. Like it was Case and Wallace and Shea, and everybody else was really pretty invisible. And I'm assuming we'll dive more into Chet Holmgren because that was, I mean, I don't, I don't even have words to describe that how just embarrassing and damaging that's going to be for him until he can shake it. But everyone else, like Dort, never had a game in this series. Caruso finally came back down to earth the last two games. McCain was up and down, and he was unfortunately down in Game 7. It was just SGA doing everything he possibly could and some timely Case and Wallace threes. And other than that, I don't think anybody on OKC played well. And then you look at the other side, and it was everyone on San Antonio other than Devin Vassell, I thought played really well. Even like those two huge threes from Keldon Johnson. And I think either the early to mid fourth or the late third, somewhere in there. Like those are just backbreakers that if they miss, who knows? Like that's the part of the game that it swings in one direction or the other. And OKC guys couldn't hit it, and the Spurs guys did. So again, I'll eat crow. I was wrong. This team, I should have factored in a little bit more than I did. That there's not a historical precedent for what's happening with this team. There's also not a historical precedent for Victor Wembanyama, which my doubt was never with him. Like I think I said on here multiple times, like I know Victor's ready. Like he's a unique personality mindset, but for the rest of this team to be as ready as they were yesterday, all the props in the world, seriously, for a young team who, that's going to be chapter one in a long, possibly historic, really just a rivalry for the next half decade at least, I think.
It is going to be interesting to see what happens, but that's why I was sold on San Antonio. I'm telling you, I understand, and they looked at times with overcome by the moment, by especially early on with the turnovers, massive turnovers, even Stefan Castle, like I mentioned, with the turnovers in the second half and whatnot. But the sheer will to win by Victor Wembanyama was something I've noticed since watching him in Henderson go up against Scoot Henderson for that first time around. And I just say he's built differently, and not just the fact he's 7 foot, whatever, I don't think he's 7 foot again. And that's on you, NBC. But, he's just has a different mindset.
He's a different breed, man. He really is.
And I just thought that was just going to be something that's hard to overcome. And I still think it's going to be something that's hard to overcome because he wants this. And when he wants something, you can see him giving that extra effort to give it. And he really, in 4 games this series, he stepped up and he gave you exactly what San Antonio needed. And I'm telling you what, the future is very bright. If he stays healthy, he will be the face of this league going forward. And a lot of that will be what started in this past week with this past series, and what you will see, in the prime time against in MSG in games 3 and 4. You'll see that. You'll see him step up, I think, and be able to provide a platform for his future success as the face of this league. Because I know Shea, he doesn't provide a game. He provides a game for analysts, for nerds, for hoop nerds, things of that nature. But he doesn't provide an appeal to a larger base of individuals. And Victor Wembanyama, it's just by his sheer presence, you can see that he does. And 22 and 7, I said going into game 7, I said he'd have to have at least what he did in game 6, if not more. Well, he didn't, but in a way he still did, because his sheer presence on the defensive end keeps players from going into the lane. And when he's on the offensive end, just the fact that all 10 eyeballs are on him on the defensive end makes it harder for the defense to do its job, and it leaves other advantages open for the offense in San Antonio. Just by his presence, he changes the dynamic for the game, and will change the dynamic for the game going forward, barring any health issues.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's interesting because I honestly think that series, like, it was going to be like I think a subplot of this way bigger deal was going to be like, well, who's going to be the best player? And I think it was a really interesting contrast because the highs of Wembayana, like I don't know if there's I mean I do know we've never seen anything like when he's pulling in the game one shot that I think we could look back as that line of demarcation. Like this is when you can argue if he's the best player. I think I'm probably leaning that way already. Despite how I think it kind of gotten dismissive of how good these guys have Shea and Jokic are, and I think Shea maybe pulled it back a little bit for those who really pay attention with how just outrageous he was yesterday, and that's going to get lost to history, which is unfortunate for him. Someone who needs a PR win. That he I thought was rigged. He that yesterday he looked like that was a guy who looked like Kobe or Jordan or Wade or whoever you want to say. Like those were the level of tough shots he was making. And there's the one
No, he played like an MVP.
yeah,
Nobody can take that away from him. He played like a two-time MVP in that game. But like you said, the deepest team in the league didn't show up when at home when they needed it the most.
yeah, and part of that's like they are very they're really deep in really two areas, right? Is they're deep with because they have like the pack of pitbull guys of Dort, Wallace, Caruso, and really Mitchell and Jalen Williams both play into that too. Like when they're really throwing their fastball, it was those five who could all go out and four. Like I think Mitchell's clearly easily the worst defender of that group. That's not really a diss on him. I think Mitchell's a plus defender, but I mean those other four are all NBA level defenders. And I mean Jalen Williams was out, and so and really the other place when they're healthy they're deep in is that like ball handler, second creator. Like it goes Shea's the head of the snake, and then you go to Jalen Williams, and then you go to AJ Mitchell, and then like if Jared McCain's your fourth best ball handler, that's great. Like that's when he becomes your second best ball handler, that's not so great. Like there's a pretty stark difference between those two things, and so that depth didn't show up really. The ones that were healthy, and part of that's just because. I mean, this was kind of my worry as the series went on for OKC is how many times can you reasonably expect these role players to be awesome and win you games? Because SGA wasn't really particularly great for the first six. I think he was pretty good in game one, if I remember correctly, but he wasn't particularly good for 5 of the first 6 games. And Chet Holmgren, it was like that's really the most not the most impact, but that's one of the probably 2 to 3 most impactful things that Victor Wembanyama did in that series, and he didn't even like do it physically. Like he just mentally has so hamstrung this guy when he's playing him. Who like people are gonna crap on his contract and crap on his All NBA. You saw against the Lakers, like he's one of those guys. He's a really good player, and against the Spurs, like in Wembanyama, like it's just such a mental block for him. And like I don't expect. I have a piece that's going to come out soon where I kind of talk about this, and I don't think anyone realistically should ever or really would ever expect Chet to be as good in a game as Wemby. Like Wemby's just he's a 2.0 version of Chet, right? Like they're similar players, except Wemby's 7 inches taller and he's just way better at everything. Like that's kind of the player. But for you to just kind of like when they were throwing him the ball, he was like fumbling around. When he tried to drive on Wemby once and he fell, like he was so mentally incapacitated throughout the series that when you're basically for all intensive purposes, OKC was down in this series, their second, third, fourth best players. And that's not a legitimate excuse with Chet Holmgren. Like he played, he was healthy. But in terms of what this team is when they're right, like that's what it was. It was Williams is out, Mitchell's out. Basically, Chet looks like he's Zaza Pachulia. Like he just can't do anything out there that's not like, well, he got a couple blocks on guards, and as many times as he got blocked by guards, Dylan Harper kind of bullied him down low. So that's through this series is the most disappointing for OKC's role players. Had a bad game 7, but like you can't ask more of Alex Caruso. You can't ask more of Jared McCain. Cason Wallace really showed up in game 7. He was the only one, but like in the totality of the series, you can't ask more of those guys. Your stars are who have to show up, and SGA did, and nobody else did. Like that was what happened. And so OKC really missed their second All NBA guy and AJ Mitchell there. And it's going to sound like excuse making. It's not. I mean, I truly understand that this is just kind of how the league works now. And OKC benefited from this last year. Like, this is just kind of, I think, what this war of attrition has become. How many years in a row can we look to teams have played this team without this guy? And this year it's working out for the Spurs, like I said. But yeah, I mean, the role players didn't show up, but I just don't think that in the totality of the series you can ask much more from those guys. Like Alex Caruso, if OKC would have just won Game 6 and won this series 4-2, I think he would have been right there with SGA for Western Conference Finals
Oh, I
MVP.
think he would have, yeah, as well, absolutely.
And so, I mean, yes, he was bad in Game 6 and Game 7, but like he was phenomenal for the first 5 games. And he's a role player. He's off your bench. They just look at the pay structure of what these guys, these contracts are on. SGA, he wasn't really up to snuff really after I thought he was good until they adjusted and pulled the double off. And the same lesson the Lakers had to go through, where you can't do this, that other players are too good. Then I thought he really didn't play well until yesterday. And then, I mean, as we've already been over, he was unbelievable in that game. Can't ask any more of anybody ever, I don't think. But the stars for OKC just kind of weren't good enough to win this series. And I'm going to forgive SGA for some of that because it is crazy defense. He was the only ball handler, and he was so great in Game 7. But he frankly wasn't good enough in Games 5 and 6. And so, and then Chet's his own bag of worms, where like, I think this guy's a phenomenal player. I think he's the second best defensive player in the league. I think he earned his All-NBA slot, and he's going to be in that All-NBA third-team mix for years to come, barring this ruined him mentally, which we've seen before. And it was that level. Like we've seen this with guys like Antoine Walker, guys like Ben Simmons. Yeah, this has happened in NBA history before, and it was that bad mentally, where it's like he just looked like a different player. And so, for OKC to even get this to 7 when you just zoom out and don't live in the moment, I think is really, I don't even want to say impressive because I don't think it's anything that they did particular like super well, but I think it's pretty crazy where you're again, like for all intensive purposes, your second, third, fourth best players are out of the series against a team we all agree is phenomenal and going to be phenomenal for a really long time. So just a great series where I think that best player in the world conversation, while maybe because of the highs you lean Wemby, I think that I don't think it really definitively answered any questions of who it is right now. Now, in a week from now, that could be totally different, and because Wemby just gets better with every single passing game, it feels like. But I thought SGA did more than hold his own in that kind of matchup, in a matchup that was not slanted towards him at all, and a matchup that Wemby owns Chet, and OKC's going to have to live with that for a long time, or not, and we'll see what they do. But knowing how OKC operates, I'm guessing it'll be they're going to trade Dort, they're going to trade Joe, they're going to trade Wiggins to clear cap space. The expectation seems to be that they're going to kind of decline and renegotiate with Hartenstein, because I think this series really proved how invaluable he is. OKC can't afford to lose him. And other than that, I think they're just running it back. So again, great chapter 1. It sucks. I think it was really pretty significantly impacted by injuries. The start of a really fun thing. But I mean, again, I just can't say enough. Like great, all-time impressive outlier stuff from the Spurs.
Once again, it's Calif Poncy. Please go ahead and check out the work he's doing today at New Century Press and the Suave Report. We will go ahead and make sure we cover the Oklahoma City Thunder and the challenges that they have ahead, because they don't get any cheaper. No. That's for sure, as far as I'm concerned. So we'll cover that in detail at a later date when we go ahead and take a look at the two teams that we're discussing on that particular week. But before we leave this Western Conference Finals and go into the NBA Finals, we must not forget about one Chet Holmgren. It seems like a lot of people forgot about Chet Holmgren because they didn't realize he was out there for a great bit of the time. Good news is that he scored the first basket of the game for OKC. The bad news is that that's all he scored from the field for the entire rest of Game 7 outside of 2 free throws. And it was truly one of the most horrific performances for an All-NBA. I mean, for however heat, as we use the wrestling vernacular, Jalen Duren has gotten over the course of the playoffs, he will get nowhere near the amount of heat that Chet Holmgren got for this series, about just basically shrinking up. And outside of one game where he got a 16-11 game and
Yeah, game
outplayed
5.
Wembayama
He
in
was good in
one
game 5.
game. Yeah, that's game 5, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, game
Yep.
5. Outside of that, he was virtually invisible for 6 of those 7 games, and that is absolutely, for a guy that is supposed to be second player behind Wembayama in all defense. Excuse me, defensive player of the year, all NBA team, third team. That's not a guy that you've already committed hundreds of millions of dollars to. That's not a good sign. And Wembayama will make it a personal issue
Yeah.
from this point forward for what happened earlier in their lives together. So that's not going to stop. The thing is, what is Holmgren going to do about it? What is Holmgren going to be able to do to get better, to try and at least fend for himself so he doesn't look as miserable or doesn't look as embarrassing as he did in this series? There's absolutely no excuse. Lou Dort, again, you've got your issues there. Again, there was no real way that he was able to lock down, or he lost his usefulness in this series. So there's an explainer for him, but for Chet Holmgren, it's simply clear. Wemby wanted you for dinner, and he got you for as far as for lunch, breakfast, dinner, after dinner mint, dessert, whatever you want to say. He ate you up and spit you out in 6 of those 7 games. And Holmgren, the way he played, he just fell right into it and didn't put up a fight at all. And that's the part I really hate the most, is just that he just decided to go ahead and quit on his team seemingly throughout the series.
Spot on. From the Thunder perspective, that's completely, because again, I already said in the last thing, like, no one, I think that's realistic, expects him to be on the level of or as good as Wembanyama. Like, they're just not, in terms of how good the players have been, like, ever since they got to the NBA from the game. It's a stupid, like, rivalry where, like, Wemby's way better than Chet, and we all know this, right? But you can't just, but you also don't have the responsibility Wemby has. Like, all Chet needs to do with SGA is, like, shoot wide open threes, which he did not do in this series. That was one of the biggest issues, is OKC needs shooting. Any team, not OKC, any team, the real only counter that you can possibly have for the Spurs is your shooters have to make their shots. Like, because especially if they're going to sit Wemby on someone in the corner, whatever you want to do, like, you have to make those shots, or else he's going to be able to do his kind of one-man zone, as they tabbed it on with Zach Lowe, where he just kind of roams the paint, does what he wants, leave a guy open. And if you're not going to make him pay, that's a one guy thing, but it's also a team thing, because they'll rotate. And Chet had multiple wide open threes that he just didn't shoot, and he didn't want to shoot. He was terrified of the moment. And so and that's what the thing that's concerning if you're OKC is I don't know what about this it gets better, right? Because this isn't about the player that Chet is. Chet is, he didn't do anything in this series that was like, well, he normally does that, or like, oh, he shot poorly or whatever. Like, you can look at a guy like SGA's shooting percentage from the field. Like, part of it's really good defense. He also missed a lot of those mid-range shots that we're used to seeing him make until, again, Game 7, he was phenomenal, right? There's other guys. When AJ Mitchell was playing in this series, like, he was missing shots. You're like, well, he's just going to make those. And, like, Chet wasn't getting those shots. Like, he just wasn't shooting. And so it's not anything about the player with Chet in this series. It's all about his mindset. It's all about, he's been completely dominated mentally by this guy. And that sounds harsh. And, talking to being lucky enough to be around these guys at just a few times, like, it seems so crazy to say that about these guys who are these, like, superhuman athletes, do all this crazy stuff, and you don't want to try and get in their heads when you don't know. But, like, I don't know what else the takeaway could be watching this. Like, because it wasn't, and Chet's such a smart basketball player who makes the right play. That's not what was happening here. Like, the right play is to go at Wemby and get his 6th foul, not to fall over your feet and trip on the ground at him. The play is,
he had like 5 fouls, 8 minutes left?
Yeah. And OKC as a whole bungled that, but especially the one egregious example of it is Reggie Miller is on the call, who I think is a pretty bad announcer, but that's separate from this conversation. he's on the call and he's yelling at Chet. He's like, go at him, go at him. Because it's like, you just have been completely mentally taken out of the series. And he does finally. And you're like, okay, well, is he going to score? Probably not. But this is like it's how game 5 was, where even if he misses some shots or whatever, like he's looking to score. That's how bad it got with Chet Holmgren in this series, where just, oh, he looked at the hoop. That's good, because he wasn't doing it other than that. And
Didn't
so,
he fall over his own feet trying to
yeah,
do that
when he
once?
went at Wemby to try and get the 6th foul, he fell over his own feet, turned the ball over, and then after that, Dagnall was just like, dude, we can't have you in the game. Like, they pulled him. He wasn't in the game at the end. And so it's concerning if you're OKC, because there's nothing that he can get in the lab and do. There's no thing he can add to his game. Like, this is a mental thing, and the threes aren't going to get more wide open than they were a lot of the times in the series, and he just didn't want to take them. Now he can speed up his jump shot. He can do those things that maybe will make it minimally better, but this is just going to be about, are you comfortable being completely and totally disrespected and bending the knee to this guy whenever you play? Because that's what it came down to. And that sounds harsh, and like I've taught, and like you're trying to guess a guy's mindset, which is always a dangerous game to play. But like, I don't know how anyone can watch the series and come away with a different takeaway. Like, it was just so clear that he was terrified of the moment, especially last night.
It's very disappointing to see. I mean, for someone who, again, you've committed so much money to going forward. And again, that's a larger discussion that we'll have when we talk about the OKC Thunder, about where you go from here. You stand pat. Do you not? Is it in the best interest to do so? There's a lot of things flying around as far as OKC right now. And the one thing that OKC fans have to take solace in, as I will reiterate it, I still think the San Antonio GM is really good, but I still think that Sam Presti has set the standard for GMs, at least in this century, the way he has set up this team for success going forward. So again, get used to it, because you guys will be at this stage or higher for the next 5 to 10 years, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you're a Thunder fan, there's a lot that you can kind of cope with in this series, right? Like, this isn't, you went in and, like, Jalen Williams was out all season, but Jalen Williams, when he played against Phoenix or against San Antonio, like in game 1, he reminds everyone he is an amazing player. This is not just some guy. Like, this is probably a top 15, 20 player in the league when he's healthy, and he just didn't play. And it's weird soft tissue stuff, but it's not like, I mean, I think the team probably planned on him being there, because it's not like he tore an ACL or something where you can just kind of say he's not going to be there. Like, and then the guy who kind of got all the practice reps as the secondary guy when he was out also got hurt. So there's a lot that you can say if you're OKC. And then in terms of the future, like, the guys you look at who are going to be gone from this team are almost certainly Dort, unless he wants to take a crazy cheap contract, which, basing off the fact he changed agents midseason, does not feel like probably what he wants to do. He's probably gone, and every OKC fan will always love and appreciate Dort for that game 5 against Denver last year. OKC does not win the title last year without Lou Dort, and all the real fans of the team know that. But he was a negative in this series, and he was really a negative this season for OKC. If he's going to be a 34% 3-point shooter, he just kind of can't play, unfortunately. He needs to be up around that 38 to 42 range that he had been in the last 2 years before this one.
Funny, I just said that to a audience about Dalton Connect. The thing is, with Lou Dort, at least he can give you the defense on that end. So if he's shooting 34.5, but if he's playing hard-nosed defense, he's still giving you something. With Dalton Connect, it's vastly different. But there is that segment of the Lakers population that just doesn't get that. But need I digress? Because I said those same exact words last night.
Yeah, I can't. On a side note, I don't think we should probably devote too much time to Dalton Connect, but
I will not try it. Well, I wish I couldn't, but it was one of my most popular videos that I've done in this month. Was Dalton Connect, and because I got a ton of comments on it, and it's all the same thing. Chet, I didn't play him more. Well, if he's bricking shots and he's a traffic cone,
that's
all you need to know.
With these Lakers of this season, especially in the playoffs when the injuries were there, like, if you had a pulse, you were going to get in the game. Maxi Kleber got in the game, like, and for JJ to not play him, I think tells us all we probably need to know.
Yes.
And I'm a Tennessee fan. I have been forever. I love Dalton Connect for what he did for my Vols in college, and I can't believe this. I thought he was going to be something, but he's just not.
I
And
thought he was too. I saw
yeah,
him that first game at Vegas Summer League, and I thought, really, this kid's got it. The kid, the way
yeah,
he handled himself, both on and off the court, he was really going to be something. But that trade really messed with his
yeah,
head, and
yeah,
he's never come back from it.
yeah. But anyway, I mean, for OKC, like Dort again, unless he wants to take a super cheap contract, is probably gone. I think Isaiah Joe has just been firmly supplanted by McCain. Like I just think McCain's a significantly better player than him. And then Wiggins is another guy who, like Dort, like they probably don't beat Indiana without him, but he couldn't really get on the floor. So these are guys who are good players who I think are going to go elsewhere and probably be in rotations and be good. But losing those guys and saving yourself about $30-ish million in cap space from those guys, you can afford that if you're OKC. And then the guy you're going to fill him with is, I'm assuming, probably pick number 12 and in a really good draft. And so this is still, like you said, this is Sam Presti. Now, in that his worst range has been that late lottery. You have some Cole Aldridges, you have Topic, who through no fault of his own, I just don't. I mean, it just the odds have been working against him. The poor guy, he's just had a hell of a go. But there's Cameron Payne. Like he did draft Steven Adams in that range. But like other than that, like that's kind of been the danger zone for him. But I mean, still, like if they draft Yaxel Endeborg, he's going to go in, he's going to play a lot as a rookie, and he's a guy the Thunder just don't have. And so the Thunder are uniquely set up where they have a lot of avenues to improvement, where if they want to trade for Trey Murphy, they could. Like that's well within something that they could do, and they could do it, price aside, aprons aside, for just this particular conversation. They could do it without losing any of their core 5 guys. Like they wouldn't have to trade any of SGA, Chet, Dub, Mitchell, or Hartenstein to get him. I don't think. Then they could figure it out. And so this is a team that is going to be healthier next year. You'd think. They just they had such a poor run of luck this year with the injuries. SGA missed time, Mitchell missed time, Jalen Williams missed the whole season, Hartenstein missed half the season. Like they just had so much unluckiness with injuries this year, which I suppose is their comeuppance for what happened last year in the finals. But I mean, this is anyone who wants to say that this team's going anywhere, that this is the permanent changing of the guard. Like, I just think that's really an in the moment take where there's some erasure of how good Jalen Williams is, which is what happens when you don't play the whole year. I understand that, but I always was on this podcast, and anywhere people would listen, there was kind of like a push, like, well, Chet's their second best player, and I was like, no, he's not. Their second best player is Jalen Williams, and they missed him in this series desperately bad, which I think if it's any team who's maybe a little less polarizing, we'll say, than the Thunder, I don't think it should be a controversial take to say a team that's missing their top 15 All-NBA player for a series against a 62-win team, it's probably going to dramatically swing the series. And OKC was uniquely structured to deal with that, but they also then lost the guy who kind of was a lot of how they dealt with that loss. So, again, it sucks that series, I think, had a really big part played by injuries. Even on the San Antonio side, like they can say, well, if Harper and Fox are healthy, maybe we just win in like 5. They can say that. I don't think that's probably true, but each fan base is going to have their own opinion on the stuff. So hopefully when this inevitably happens again in the next 2 years, if not both, we get at least one of these years where both teams are just throwing their fastball and we really see these teams going at it.
We will see what happens, but it starts Wednesday with the NBA Finals, Game 1. San Antonio was the victor in the Western Conference Finals. I think it was, again, great Game 1, great Game 7. What came in between was,
forgettable.
Yeah, I guess you could say the best way to say it. But Game 1 will be New York at San Antonio. Our thoughts on that? Go ahead, Calif, because again, there's going to be 3 days off, and it is mainly a younger team in San Antonio, so I don't see them being extraordinarily tired, maybe mentally drained after a taxing 7-game series, but I don't know. I'm not betting against Wembayana. I told you before, this kid is just something different, something generational, something special, and I just got to see it happen. And I understand New York has all the momentum right now, but they've been playing against Eastern teams and they have not played against a Victor Wembayama and a three-guard set that they can throw at you like the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah, so I'll say these kind of two-ish, 2.5, 3 things in favor of the Knicks before I make my pick here. The way that they are the best 5-out team in the NBA, the lineup they can put on the floor, and that's a way to kind of disturb what Wemby does down low, and that's what OKC really couldn't do with the injuries. Is they couldn't really, and the reluctance of whatever was going on with Chet, they could not put out a really good 5-out lineup, and that played right into what the Spurs want to do with Wemby. They said, okay, Aaron Wiggins, okay, Chet, okay, Hartenstein, whoever it may be, go ahead. We're just going to leave you open. We're going to let Wemby roll. We're going to let him completely turn off the paint for everybody who wasn't Jared McCain in moments. New York's not going to have that problem. They can put out the Brunson, Cat, Anunoby, Bridges, Hart lineup where, hey, Hart's just shot like 37, 38% this year. And now that we could definitely see him take a dip, but with how well they've been playing, I'd bet the three-point shooting probably sustains for them. The other thing is not only did San Antonio just come off a super long series, I think that's about the matchup, how personal it was for Wemby with Chet, how personal it was for that San Antonio team with the OKC and vice versa. I think it was on top of being a really physically taxing series, like you said, a really emotionally I think it's going to be a hard one for them to kind of come down from, or it's a really big win for them. I think more than most West Finals are. I think we saw that in the post game reaction with Wemby, how he reacted. Like that meant a lot to them. As it should. I mean, huge win, obviously, but and then New York was kind of just like, yeah, we're here, we're ready. We swept Cleveland. It wasn't very hard. They're definitely not coming off the high that they would feel if they won the finals as compared to the Spurs. They just had about as impactful as a win as you can have without it being a championship. So we'll see how they come down from that. And then the one thing with Wemby, the Wemby has two things at this stage of his career that kind of aren't perfect already. And it's that the first one, the most important one we saw in the Thunder series, he sometimes falls in love with the jumper. Where if he just went inside every time, which I get is it's a lot to ask with how much energy he exerts and how much he gets beat up. But there's just games that the Thunder just won because he just said, I'm just shooting jumpers. And he doesn't always make his jumpers. No one does. Steph Curry doesn't make all his jumpers. And so, the second thing is his second kind of thing that he has that's not perfect already is he's not a really very high minutes player in the regular season. And so could we see him if it goes long, which as we'll see here soon is not necessarily what I personally think is going to happen as much as I respect this Knicks run. If it does go long, could he start to wear down a little bit? But for the Spurs, why I'm going to pick the Spurs, and I'm going to pick the Spurs in 5. And that seems dismissive of these Knicks. I think these Knicks are a really good team, a really fun story. And I'm very open to in this particular series, most of the series, when I picked OKC in 6 last series, it was kind of a thing of I think Jalen Williams will be back and all this and all that and all this. But I mean, of course, I knew, of course the Spurs could win, right? The Spurs were a great team. They gave them problems in the regular season. Jalen Williams hasn't been able to stay healthy all season, and we saw that rear its head. This is one, though, that I was pretty confident in that before the series started, not knowing the injuries that would play out. In this is one where I think it's going to be either Spurs in 5, and if it goes late, if it turns into a 6-7 game series, I think that's just in the benefit of the Knicks, personally. And so I'm going to pick the Spurs to do this because, again, my opinion is you hear all these people, you hear these odds are way too crazy in favor of the Spurs, this and that. The Knicks they're right there. I think that the Knicks have not really played an above average team yet, personally, even the Cavs. The Cavs beat an incredibly flawed Detroit team that probably was a Franz Wagner injury away from losing to the 8 seed Magic, if we're being honest. So I think the Knicks haven't really played anybody very special yet, and I just think that despite the injuries, the Spurs just knocked off a really, really, really special team on the road in Game 7, all the pressure on them. And I think that I don't. Again, I said this already, but I don't necessarily think that we should look at this as like the Spurs or the Thunder are just like everybody else. They can be beaten. I think they can be beaten, but I think they can be beaten by one another. I don't necessarily think any other teams can mess with these two teams, especially with the Spurs' health really trending in the right direction. You'd think this time off is going to be good for whatever's going on with Dylan Harper's adductor. Fox looked the best he's looked by a mile in the OKC series in Game 7. So I just think that we're going to get through this, and we're just going to say, wow, like the Spurs are here. We already are saying that. Obviously, Wemby's here. It's Wemby's league, and also maybe we shouldn't pour dirt on OKC. Maybe it's just that these two teams are a lot better than everybody, and it's pretty crazy that they went to 7 with the injuries they had. So I'm going Spurs in 5. Wemby Finals MVP. Wemby's league. The NBA is just jumping for joy in the league offices at this series in general, no matter who wins. So yeah, I'm going Spurs in 5. I'd imagine a really good Castle series too. This seems like the type of team with how silly Karl Towns can be down low with the fouls he does. With the lack of a really physical perimeter defender to put on Castle, I think Castle will be back to being really good. And he was good against OKC, but before that, it was like, what is this guy? I think we could see him return to that form. And then, I think Wemby, especially with Mitchell Robinson I imagine he'll play, but either way, he does have
he's going to play. That's already been reported. He'll play. Not like it's going to hurt his free throw shooting any.
That's fair enough. But all it takes is
I think he could break all of his fingers and still not hurt.
Probably the same percentage. Maybe it'd go up because he'd have to do a new form. But
Granny, he should try the Granny. I'm telling you.
No, someone needs to eventually. I mean, I remember all the stories are that Shaq just thought he looked way too stupid, so he couldn't do it, and that it was an ego.
Doesn't matter if he'd hit 90% of them. He just wouldn't do it.
When it looked too stupid. But yeah, I actually agree with Mitchell Robinson. That'd be fascinating. Why no one's ever done that? But but anyway, either way, like he is going to have some finger thing. Your hands are going to be really important in this series because one of the ways we saw the Thunder get an advantage over the Spurs is when another one of those kind of mini flaws with Wemby is you can get on the offensive glass against him. And that Mitchell Robinson is probably the best offensive rebounder in the league that isn't Steven Adams. So he's going to be really important for the series, and he has a finger injury that is not going to keep him out, but he is a center. He's going to be doing layups and dunks. Wemby's going to be down there throwing his hands at his hands. Just makes it maybe 5% tougher. And I just think the Spurs team is really special. I think the Thunder team we just saw lose is really special. And I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong because I just like the Knicks more than the Spurs from my fan perspective. And I think it'd be awesome and super cool and a great story if they won. But I just think that this Knicks team, I don't think it's special. I think they're really good. But I think the Spurs are special and the Thunder are special, and I don't think anybody else really is right now.
I think when it comes down to it, I've got Spurs in 6 or 7, simply because the fact that if there's going to be a learning curve on how to finish off teams for the NBA Finals, it might be this time right now where they have maybe some bumps in the road. They got to make sure that one of the facets that they are deficient at is offensive rebounds. For a period of time, we saw in Game 7, Oklahoma City stayed in the game simply based off of their offensive rebounding. And Mitchell Robinson, bad pinky or no, is one of the best offensive rebounders in the game. But you're right on Cat. If Cat, the one thing that Victor Wembanyama does almost as good as SGA does, or in fact sometimes better, is draw fouls. And if Cat gets into foul trouble on a repeated basis, it could go 4, it could go 5. But I have a feeling that at least there's going to be 1 or 2 games they're going to let things slide as far as the refs are concerned, and at least draw things out to try and make it more of a competitive matchup. But we will wait and see. But if those 3 guards on San Antonio are gelling and are not bothered by the same high level of defense that OKC gave them, especially early on when they were turning the ball over like crazy, that could be a problem for New York. I mean, OG is a good defender. Hart is a good defender. They Bridges is a good defender, and they've all played real well in this 10-game series. But I just have uh, doubts that they're going to be able to sustain that against those three guards on San
Yeah,
Antonio, especially with the way Harper's playing at an
unbelievable.
elite
Yeah.
level for a rookie right now.
For anybody. This Spurs thing. If we want to do a narrative podcast sometime, we should do how have the Spurs never fallen in the lottery? What is the magic that they're instilling to make this happen? Because he is unbelievable. He's so good. I have not been that impressed with a young guy in a series in maybe ever. Like just in terms, because it's not only how good he was, it's that you got like the Knicks do have good defenders, and but they're not on OKC's level defensively. Only San Antonio's on OKC's level defensively, right? And so this isn't going to be anything they haven't seen before. I imagine based on the regular season matchups, we'll probably have Anunoby on Wemby most of the time. He was one of the better Wemby defenders in the NBA. Actually, he's kind of the perfect guy who you'd want, who's a 6'9", thick, strong guy that the Thunder just didn't really have. So that's going to be a new look for Wemby. But another thing one of the things that is special about this Knicks team is it feels like we saw this in game 1 against Cleveland, right? Like it feels like they can walk you down no matter what. Like they're never out of a game. They're so good in the clutch. And I think that San Antonio showed an ability in that Thunder series where how many times did it feel like in that game 7, like, okay, here come the Thunder. They're coming. They're down 2. They're down 4. They're at home. They're experienced. Shea's playing out of his mind, all this. And then they just said, no, we're good, and went on their own 7-0 run to thwart any momentum. And so I think that this Spurs team, to their credit, and this is where I would argue they're actually better built than the Thunder. They seem to, especially Wemby, of course. I mean, I'm not going to give them a bunch of credit for drafting Wemby. I think I probably could have put someone who's never watched basketball before, put a line of guys in front of me, like,
The tall guy.
who do you want on your basketball team? They probably would have picked Wemby, but more like Castle, like those guys are absolute psycho killers, man. Like they are like Castle specifically is just wired in this way that you're just, I mean, he's just insane. He's getting mad. He's freaking out. He's about to fight Alex Caruso for making like non-reckless, like he sat him down. He's like, but he's just so amped up and wired in. He's like, I hate you. I'm playing against you. I'm playing with this ferocity that I mean, it's like Russell Westbrook, like seriously. And I don't say that lightly, growing up watching OKC all the time. Like that's who it reminds me of, where it's just like, he just has this energy of like, I hate everybody else on the floor all the time. And so I just don't think this is a team that's going to get like walked down. And that's kind of one of the Knicks superpowers, is how good they are in the clutch. And so I just think that the thing that the Knicks could do in the series that they have a chance is if they shoot really well in every game, or 4 out of 7 games, right? Like they could win because they're such a good shooting team. And that's kind of the one somewhat hole in San Antonio's defense, is they're not great at defending the 3-point line. But, the finals none of these Knicks have been in the finals either, to my knowledge. I mean, Mikal Bridges, I guess, but never mind. Anunoby, I guess they have a few guys who have been there. I don't know what I'm talking about, but either way, like this feels a little different, right? Like it's different when it's New York. It's different when this just feels like a way more important finals than like Toronto Golden State did, frankly. Like this is a really important feeling finals. This is either the rejuvenation of the Knicks, or it's Wemby's being coronated at 22 years old. Like those are the only two possible outcomes from this. One of those two things is going to happen. And so it's a really important series that is going to be super high pressure. And I just think that the Spurs just played in about as high pressure of a situation as you can be in, frankly, and handled it as well as anyone's ever handled one of those situations. I can't believe how well every single role player played in Oklahoma City on the road in a game 7. Like it's just unbelievable. And so
even Luke Cornett, with people are calling with the play of the game.
Play of the game. Best play. Yeah. I mean, seriously, like that.
Although,
seriously,
if you looked at that highlight though, Hartenstein was fumbling the ball before.
Yeah, but I think he's probably fumbling the ball because he feels Cornett's there, right? And then he gets the awesome block but he was fumbling the ball. But I mean, I think if Cason Wallace maybe does a little seal, or maybe, whatever, I think he probably just dunks it. But he felt Cornett was there, so he went to lay it up and just lost the ball. And then Cornett awesomely blocked it when he wasn't going to make it anyway, but still. Yeah, I mean, even Cornett in his 4 minutes that he played, he was impactful, about as impactful as 4 minutes as you're going to get. So Yeah, I mean, this Spurs team is just. I've went from saying like they're not ready for it, they can't be ready to. I've never seen a team more ready for a moment than what I saw yesterday in terms of top to bottom. Everybody on the roster said, "We're here. We're not scared. We're on the road. We don't care. We're 21. We're 22. Whatever. Check ball." And they went and they made every shot, man. Like, um, so I mean, I think it's the Spurs. I would be pretty. I mean, I'm sticking to Spurs in 5. I just think that we just saw two heavyweight, special, all time teams go at it, and one was weakened, but still, um, I think that OKC team, even with what they were, is better than the Knicks, frankly. So I could be wrong. Maybe this Knicks team is super special, and I'm ignoring what's in front of me because I'm being too disrespectful of the East. But I'm just going to go with my gut, and that's the Spurs are just amazing, man. And I don't think the Knicks don't strike me as amazing, and the Spurs do.
No, I already said that we saw the NBA Finals. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm going to stick to that one. If New York wins, there you go, more power to them. Then they deserve it even more. But I still think we saw the two best teams in the league go at it in the Western Conference Finals, and that's again, New York has to prove us wrong if that's the case. But I do agree with you that San Antonio is going to win. If you guys are out down there on YouTube or you're listening to us, what have you, on audio podcast formats, go ahead and let us know your thoughts on the NBA Finals right there in the comments below, indeed. But before we head on out, you and I are continuing our look at the NBA teams and what they might or should do this summer, or in the case of one team, should do this summer, but probably won't. And that's in New Orleans and also Cleveland, Ohio. So we're going to start off with the New Orleans Pelicans, who just lost Ramadan to become the assistant general manager of the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm not trying to be a little bit facetious on this, but I hear one of the things that was said, when they hired him, as far as that's concerned for the Lakers, the code word was rocket scientist. As far as inside source tells ESPN that this guy was thought of as a rocket scientist for a way he reshaped or utilized AI and coding to reshape how the front office does its work.
I'm out.
So,
I'm out.
all I'm saying is whatever AI what he was utilized in New Orleans didn't work out so well. So
No,
I think we put whoever said that is putting way too much pressure on it. He's a USC grad, so I love my Trojans. So I'm going to give him some respect, and we'll see what happens in Lakers land. But I just don't think when you're coming from New Orleans,
can't be a rocket scientist to be on the Pelicans.
yeah, exactly. Because we've seen some against the grain rocket scientist moves within the past calendar year. And so, with that being said, New Orleans still has an array of talent, but seemingly no way to get it on the same page to become a winning team, in my opinion. They've got a lot of pieces that just don't fit very well. And in doing so, I think changes need to be made in order for them to go ahead and advance further, in my opinion, from that level of playoffs that they had, that one game against the Lakers in the play-in where Zion Williamson got injured, and that's ever since then it's been a downhill slope ever since. So, with that being said, New Orleans does have some assets that they can move. The first of which being Zion Williamson, because I know those are when it comes to Trey Murphy Jr. The third and Herb Jones, those are the ones that I think a lot of people are going to be talking about this summer, like they were talking about last summer and the summer before them, as far as it's concerned. But it all starts with Zion Williamson. What do you do? Because he's not going to end up being a mercurial player, but he's not a slouch either, as far as it's concerned. He's not a player that is, I mean, he's not a player that underwhelms when he's out there on the court. And last year, 25, 8 rebounds a game. I mean, he is playing at a solid, if not good level. I don't think he's going to be the mercurial star that many were hoping he was when he was first drafted. But your thoughts on Zion Williamson and what do you do with him?
I just it would just be really dependent upon the offer for me. Like I can see why you trade him in the scenario you trade him in, but I just think that he's just such a weird player where it's like the talent, the off court stuff is the off court stuff where it's very odd, it's weird, whatever. But like he hasn't gotten suspended for it yet, and he doesn't seem like he's probably going to. And when he has played, and last year's the healthiest he's really ever been, like he is
62 games.
yeah, like when he does play, he is such a dynamic talent that you just can't really replicate. And I
Actually,
think
21. I want to say 21-6. I said 25. That was earlier in his career. He did 21-6-3, just to let you know, and shot 60% from the field.
yeah, he's a really unique talent. Like there isn't Zion's running around. I mean, there's just he's a 6'5" center power forward who is super efficient and gets whatever he wants inside when he's healthy. But then he has no resemblance of a jumper and is probably the best when you run him at point Zion, but you also can't really have an efficient offense when you run. So I mean, he's this really weird player that they and no one has really figured out how to scheme around yet in the NBA. But I think that the pieces of something are here, and I think that those two pieces that they might not be the two best players on the team, but Fears and Queen I think are both good, and so I don't know how good they're going to be. Maybe those two can't be your building blocks because they're always going to be too bad defensively. I definitely can see that as the reality.
I was looking at the stats, defensive rankings, defensive ratings for Dalton Connect. Although Bub Carrington really has to do something about that because he was the absolute worst by far, ratings wise. But on that top 20 list were both Fears and Queen as far as it's concerned, and that's something that needs to change very soon.
Yeah, and so I mean I think you're pretty committed to those two with the trade you made. I think they're both talented young players. I think in this West you're probably not going anywhere anyway, and I think that Zion kind of can fit with those two offensively. Now defensively, they just haven't really built a roster that's competent defensively. Like their best defender is probably
Jones when he's healthy.
Herb Jones. Yeah, he's great. But I mean, I imagine they should trade him. Like I don't think his value. I think his value is probably only going to go down from here as he gets older. I'm sure the Lakers will be all over him. Teams like that. Like I think that they're probably going to trade him because he is phenomenal. I forgot about him. Poor Herb has just been withering away in New Orleans for like 7 years already. And then after that, like it's Trey Murphy, and Trey Murphy's great. Like I think Oklahoma City should, if they can figure out how it would work financially, they should sniff around Trey Murphy. I think he's a really good winning basketball player, but he can't be your best defender. And then other than that, like it's Jordan Poole and it's Fears and it's Zion and it's Missy and it's Queen and it's I mean all these guys you're like, oh, none of you are good at defense, and so they just don't really have the personnel to have a very good defensive team, and because of that, like I think you just got to move forward. I think that they should trade Jones and Murphy, and I think there's been some buzz that they probably will. Like I think they hopefully should be smart enough to realize that neither one of those guys' value is ever going to be any higher. Like the hypothetical of Trey Murphy is so much more than the actual reality of Trey Murphy has ever been. And I think that's legitimate. Like I'm about as big a fan as him as you can be. I think he's so perfect. And I think he's one of these guys who really fits into a winning basketball team. And he's just never really been on one. So we haven't really been able to see him be what he's going to be. But I mean, I think I'd just roll with Fears and Queen and Zion and then just kind of see what else happens. Cause I kind of think it's what you have to do. Like, I don't think it doesn't make sense financially to pay Murphy, right? It's going to go up to 27, 28 million next year. He's a good player, but what's the point? Like he's your New Orleans, like you should not be anywhere near any apron or tax or anything. And I'm not certain if they are or not, but like, I know that Zion makes high 30s, 40s. I know that Murphy's about to make, 28. And I'm sure they have Jordan Poole under contract for over 30. Like they're not without their big contracts there, and you're not going to be able to get off Jordan Poole. You, for some reason that I don't understand, the rocket scientist, I'm assuming, was out of the room on that one. They traded CJ McCollum, who's good and was just impactful in a playoff series, straight up for Jordan Poole, who had another year on his contract. So
that was wild. That's one, whenever they do a deal, I just have to take a second look at like, They
There's a
did
few
that.
teams, man. It's them, it's the Kings, I mean, and for the longest time it was the Clippers. Like if they do a thing, it's just not going to work. And so I don't know. I just think that you're so limited asset wise because you don't have your pick this year. Um, Now they've really taken the value out of being actually bad. And I just don't think like unless if someone's going to trade you 2, 3 first for Zion, get him out for sure. Don't deal like move on. Just have Fears go out there and average 25 and 10 and have the worst defensive rating in NBA history. Like just go do your thing. You have Fears, you have Queen. I'm sure there's some guys I'm forgetting about that they have that I don't mind. Um, they seem to always have talent that just never meshes there, like you said earlier. So, um, yeah, I just think that those three kind of need to be your people unless you get a really good offer for Zion. And if not, I'd trade Trey Murphy for probably 3 to 5 first/swaps with where his perceived value is right now. And then, I mean, I imagine you can probably get a first in a swap from the right team for Herb Jones. And so do those things. Get yourself more bites at the apple in this new and improved. I think it's an improved lottery system to have a bunch of picks. It's just probably a worse lottery. Not probably. It is a worse lottery system to maybe have one really bad or your really bad pick. Yeah. So I mean, I just think roll next year. Go Fears. Go Zion. Go play Misi more. I think Queen can be something. We'll see what that something is. Maybe he's never more than like a Nikola Vucevic type, maybe, or maybe he's like Sabonis, and then I mean, I think that's also in the cards. So, I think I want to talk about them because of what they can provide for other teams more than what they can do. Because I think Herb Jones and Trey Murphy both are probably two of the more interesting guys who are likely to get traded this summer.
I am hoping that the Lakers will take note of that as far as the availability of Herb Jones and also as well Trey Murphy the third, because I think a package for both those guys would really solve some of the problems of that the Lakers have. Sorry, Austin.
Reeves to New Orleans. There you go.
Yes,
What a
I would love us. That's
about
okay.
A bad defensive team.
I'm going to tell you right now, Caleb. When I'm going to have Legend on, and was going to invite you one of these days during the summer. We're going to go ahead before free agency and all that starts, maybe even before the draft. See if we can get together to run our teams to make changes like you would run OKC, I would run the Lakers.
I'm in on
Yeah,
this already.
yeah. So we'll do that on a live show coming up, and I was going to run that by you. So and because that's one of the things I would. But the only thing is we can't once the player has been taken or whatnot. That's it, unless they're traded to another team, so to speak, as far as it's concerned. We can't all trade for like Giannis Antetokounmpo, like, oh, OKC did, oh, the Lakers just did, just we can't do that. But we'll go ahead and set that up here for a live show here in the not too distant future then. But I'll just say this when it comes to New Orleans, like you said, when you talk about them in the aspect more of assets you'd like to have on your team, more than what you think they'll do for their own team, that tells you all you need to know. And again, it's a island of misfit toys, using the old Christmas holiday special vernacular. It's an island of misfit toys. It's pieces that don't fit together. That doesn't necessarily mean they're bad. That just means that they just don't work well together.
Yeah. And somehow they've always been that way. Like they've perpetually been that way. Where you look at their roster and you're like, oh, we didn't even talk about DeJounte Murray, who's on this roster, by the way. Like it's just they have DeJounte Murray and Jordan Poole. Like I've heard of all these guys, or even back when it was like they have Lonzo and they have Brandon Ingram and they have not Anthony Davis. Obviously, those guys were traded for Anthony Davis. And they have Zion and they have Josh Hart, and then it was like, well, they have like they just drafted this Nickeil Alexander-Walker guy, and they still have Zion, and they have Dyson Daniel. Like it's just always somehow they just always have all these guys. You're like, I kind of like him, and then they're always terrible. Like I don't know how
they're always better somewhere else.
And they're always, go get New Orleans guys. Trey Murphy might be Larry Bird. We don't know. He's just been on New Orleans this whole time. He probably deserves a chance somewhere else.
You see what happened, Dyson Daniels. You'll see what happened, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. You've seen what's happened with Josh Hart. You've seen what happens there. So
even Lonzo, when Lonzo went to Chicago before he got hurt, he had, I think, turned a corner and become a really good player.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's no longer the case because of his injuries. But you're right on that one. And again, I would like to see New Orleans make some moves, take a step back so they can take a step forward. It would probably be the best thing. But with the 3-3-2-1 lottery rules, will that allow them to do that? We'll have to
Yeah.
wait and see. But before we head on out, the other team on our list is one I asked you if we could cover the Cleveland Cavaliers while it's still fresh. Interesting because I thought up and leading it up until today, or was it yesterday? And I was looking at Bobby Marks as far as doing his tracking as far as overall, and he popped up OKC with what if they stood pat, what their projected number is. Cleveland no longer has that right now. If everything stood pat, Cleveland would be over the second apron, but OKC would be well over the second
Yeah,
apron
38
if
million.
yeah, so that's the case. I thought it was Cleveland who had the most egregious salary situation, but it looks like OKC has that
Yeah,
as far as the levels because but the talent there, you can explain it away. You can
yeah.
explain to an owner why you're into the second tax or luxury tax. If you're Sam Presti, you can explain away. With Cleveland, it's a harder deal to say with Dan Gilbert because of the fact of all the issues and problems they have in that team. But I know you wanted to say something, so go ahead, my friend.
I was just gonna do a quick. I would be pretty shocked if OKC's over the second apron next season.
Well,
Um,
I know they're going to make some changes, but let's just say they didn't. Let's
yeah,
just say they stood pat. You could reason with me
yes, for
why
sure.
they would
Yeah,
stand pat. With Cleveland, with some glaring holes that I see, I cannot take your word for it. I would say, why are you still at this level?
yeah. What have we done?
Yeah.
There's no 2025 championship. There's no. We were right there with the Spurs. There's like, well, we got punked by the Knicks again, and now we're older, and we're gonna have to. Now we're about to give James Harden another dumb contract that we just should say. I think we're good with the agent. Like, is the agent really gonna have his players not sign with us because we're not doing this? Like, is that what is gonna happen? Maybe. I guess I'm not in the game. Maybe that's truly a fear you have, but um, I think I saw reported that they're basically just gonna give him like 2 years, 60 million or whatever. It's like, I just don't know how many times we have to do this rigmarole with James Harden, who I've always been a fan of. I've always been a defender of back in his prime. I defend kind of the James Harden ideal, but now, I mean, he's 37. He's 37. He was bad at defense and he was 27. He's definitely bad at defense now. And now he doesn't have the energy to expend on offense that he once did. And I think we were talking about Cleveland on here when they lost. And
Yeah.
this is just a team that just doesn't make sense. You have two guards who don't make sense together, and you have two bigs who don't make sense together to me. Like, again, it's going to be a controversial time to be all how great Chet Holmgren is, but like the reason that Hartenstein and Chet work together when they're good and not playing the Spurs specifically is because they're both like, especially Hartenstein is a really good passer, and they have this weird like kind of big to big lob passing, and then so like they can play together and it makes sense. Mobley and Allen, like they're both, I think, especially Mobley, like I think they're really good on their own, but I just they neither one wants to be a spacer, and neither one's a particularly plus passer. And I think that all Allen does is kind of make Mobley have to play on the perimeter on defense a little more than you'd want. When in reality, he should be right there with the Wembys and the Chets as being like, this is one of the premier guys in the league at defending the rim. And he showed that when he won Defensive Player of the Year last year. But like, and then I mean Mitchell and Harden, like Garland and Mitchell didn't make sense together either. So I think I said this on when we were talking about that series too. Like in the long run, I really think that's going to be a deal where like we just didn't really want to pay Garland for the next however many years, and we're fine. We know we're still going to have to pay Harden, but it's going to be like $15 million less, and we can probably get out of it. And we're probably going to put like a team option on the second year, like the Clippers did, type of deal. Um, and I just think that was honestly a long-term cheapening move because there's no way they don't see the writing on the wall there. They've seen great teams in Cleveland with Kyrie and LeBron, and this is not a great team.
Again, I don't know why you would want to renegotiate with James Harden. I don't know why you want him on the team at all.
It just kind of feels like it's how it works. But yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I totally agree.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's a business and it's a team, and I don't care to his representatives what we discussed in February. He no showed. He
Yeah.
no showed, and he provided you with one of the worst defensive performances in playoff history in Game One, and was not much better throughout that series.
No.
And the fact that you're bringing Kenny Atkinson back after making one of the worst uh, coaching jobs throughout that series analytically, and as far to use his vernacular, analytically, we're leading this series. Oh yeah, okay. You keep dreaming, my friend. You keep
Yeah.
dreaming on that. And what he did, nothing. He did nothing. You and I did the same amount of things that he did during Game One on that 22-point, lead to get it. I
Yeah.
don't know why
Yeah.
you're bringing him back. Do you want to win or do you want to win? I don't know. And if I was Donovan Mitchell, I would read the room and say, you know what? They're not doing what needs to be done for us to get any higher. I'm not going to extend with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I need to move on because I need a really good defensive player to go alongside me that can hit some threes and do some things. A really good two-way player instead of what I've got with James Harden, because that will not work. And I've told you before, this scares me and frightens me to death that the Lakers are going to commit, whatever,
Yeah.
150, 200, $241 million to Austin Reeves, giving the Lakers a backcourt that will simply be lit up on the defensive end in the playoffs. It looked great in February, but I'm not worried about February. I'm worried when you worry about Harden and Mitchell, and where you worry about Reeves and Doncic. You worry about them in May and June. You do not worry about them against a normal game 42 in the season. You worry about them in the postseason when it matters the most. And the fact is, the Cleveland Cavaliers with that backcourt found the right or wrong in their case matchup that worked well against them, and it shows. You got to have a backcourt that can have some semblance of defense, because if you don't, a talented backcourt or talented guard set like New York does, like San Antonio does, like OKC does, will light you up every time.
Yeah, there's just too many talented guards in the league right now to just have a team that, like, no matter what, oh, they're not going to be able to guard other guards. I mean, even the teams that you look at that maybe didn't do as well in the East this year, like Jaylen Brown is on the Celtics, and Cade Cunningham is on Detroit, and Tyrese Maxey is on, and VJ Edgecombe, both are in Philly. Like, and that's just the East, and that's like clearly the lesser of the conferences. Like, don't you can't even go over to like the West when you have OKC and San Antonio and what Utah could do if Peterson hits, if that's who they go with, and I mean, all these teams that it's way too talented of a guard era to just not have anybody who can guard guards, and that's why how they could, because it seems like the plan is just kind of to run it back. And if you're OKC, like OKC fans want to do a crazy trade, and that includes part where, like, I think you should, if you're the Thunder, you should think about these big names, maybe if you think that this Chet thing's going to be a problem. But that's a team you should run back, where you're like, oh, we had this go wrong and this go wrong, we should just run it back. Why are you running back Cleveland? Like, well, why are you? Because you made the conference finals. The Thunder making the conference finals and the Cavs making the conference finals could not be more different things, and where their teams should be considered right now, to me. I think you have a twosome that makes so much sense together, which is Mitchell and Mobley. I think those two are the basis of a really good starting five, where you have your guard, you have your big. But instead of surrounding those guys with guys who make sense around those players, they have players that make those guys' jobs harder. They have players that take the ball out of Donovan Mitchell's hands. They have guys that take Evan Mobley out of the dunker spot and out of the paint on defense. And so, to me, the answer to this is, people push back on this because LeBron's old. I would this is again, just like the Garland thing, get out of the business of these big contracts, these guys who are not worth these big contracts. And to me, that's Jared Allen. And I just think a Jared Allen for LeBron sign and trade, which isn't going to happen, but I totally think it should just be priority number one for both teams. I do not know why either one of those teams would not do that. And so, I get I get, I don't want to say I don't get why. I get why Cleveland doesn't, because of the age gap and because it's a 1-year deal for LeBron and all this and all that. But what do you think? What do you think Jared Allen's going to fetch you in return? Who's trading a lot for Jared Allen right now? Is that, like,
No.
what exactly? And so
So that's what I want to ask you is Evan Mobley seems to be now the individual that's most likely to be moved,
is
according
it
to
ridiculous?
reports. What else can you do to make major changes that will help this team and also get out while trying to get out under that second luxury tax simultaneously?
It's trade Allen for, if it's not LeBron, like, you're probably not going to get a ton of return. Like, you signed these guys to really big deals. This is kind of what sucks, even when because I think everyone agrees Jared Allen's pretty good and he's just not in a particularly great spot for his. This is the thing about Cleveland, is you see the other teams that are great in the league right now, which technically speaking, Cleveland was one of the final four. Like, they should be considered in this group. And all these teams have players who make each other better in one way or another. And like San Antonio, you look at their roster on paper and it's like, oh, all these guards and whatever. But then you watch, and me and you went back and forth about Fox all year. They wouldn't have won that series if they didn't have Fox. Like, they just need, like, all these guys need each other at this stage of their career. And OKC, obviously, and New York, like, all New York is so good because all of these guys are perfect. Like, it's this perfect fit where it's all synergy and it's all a clear pecking order. And then you get to Cleveland and it's like, well, if Harden's out there, Mitchell's not as good because he can't have the ball anymore. And you also have another target on defense. So you have 2 defensive targets on the floor, not one. And they're both pretty high turnover. And like, it just, these guys don't make sense together. And so I totally would just, I guess, make the bad business move and just tell James Harden to kick rocks. I would just say, and they're not going to, and we all know that, but that's what they should do if it's about making your team the best that it can be. And I'd trade Allen for, I just think the LeBron thing makes so much sense, but that's just a pie in the sky thing. It can be for,
I'll welcome that.
yeah, that's my thing, is I feel like the Lakers would be all over it. And I feel like if you're the Cavs, that makes you better for 1 year, because LeBron is better than Jared Allen, obviously, right? He's a better basketball player. He even will be next year, still at 42, 43 to me. He's a better shooter. He spaces your floor better. It's not bad that they have another really smart ball handler with Mitchell. It's that it's another kind of guy who, when they're both rolling, they do it differently. But like, Mitchell and Harden are kind of the same thing when they're both, like, if they're playing their best possible game, I think it's kind of the same thing, where they're these undersized guards who can score a ton of points. And because they have such gravity, they become good passers, and and Harden's a great, all-time great passer. I'm not arguing that. That's not my point right now. But like, they're basically their all-time scorers who, because of the gravity they have, can, when they're really playing well, become these distributors to other players. But they're also both terrible at defense. And I think if you bring in like a LeBron, who essentially would be like, he has the brain of another point guard, right? Like, he's such a good passer and he's so smart, but he's big and he's also bad at defense, but not on the James Harden level. Like, he's at least tall and big, like the baseline things of, like, he can get in the way of people. Like, we literally saw in the Knicks series, James Harden actually literally can't get in the way of people. Like, that's all he needed to do to Jalen Brunson. Just hold him up. Just stand there and make it so he can't just walk around you. He couldn't do that. And so, and more importantly to me, I think that makes you better for the 1 year, which is important, not important. They're not going to win the championship anyway. Most importantly, it resets your books, and you just have this twosome that makes a ton of sense to me, which is Mobley and Mitchell. These two guys who I think can play together. I think it gives you more positional versatility. You have a guy who can play the 1 and the 2, and you have a guy who can play the 4 and the 5. It gives you this ability to move guys in around them. Like, I just think that, and if you only have 2 max guys, you have flexibility. You're not going to be in the second apron. Like, you're going to be able to move guys around. And so I think that moving Mobley, who I think should be their most valuable asset, would be incredibly foolish. And whoever, I don't know what team would be on there. Sam Amick reported that OKC has always liked Evan Mobley today. Like, I don't know how that would work, whatever. Unless you're just saying, well, like, do you want Chet for Mobley, even though they're the same guy? Like,
welcome to my world with the Lakers. So you're going to be attached to every trade rumor that's coming up.
Yeah, no, but but still, like, some smart team will get Evan Mobley if they actually are going to trade him. And I don't feel like they will. I feel like they'll probably just run back the same team and do whatever this year's version of their DeAndre Hunter trade is or their Keon Ellis trade is, where we made a move, look at this, and then it doesn't matter. They're just the same team with a different guy in the fifth starter spot. I don't know. This is a team in a really hard place because I do think that Mobley and Mitchell are two of the top 20 players in the NBA. But I think they're in this horrible situation where everything around them doesn't make sense. To amplify your best players to be their best, none of the guys around them make sense. Down to Dennis Schroeder, down to like even like a Dean Wade, like you gotta have a better shooter than that around Donovan Mitchell. It just all their role players don't make sense with this team, other than like a Jordan Tyson or whichever Jalen, whichever one, the ones on the Saints, one whatever, whichever one.
Jalen.
Okay, Jalen is the NBA player. He was good at the beginning of the season, and then they kind of just stopped playing him, and so I think he makes sense. He's kind of like the prototypical 3-and-D type guy. Maybe they should be in on this Aaron Wiggins inevitable trade or this Dort inevitable trade. Maybe they should be trying to get in on a guy like that. But they need better players to surround their guys, because what you need to make up for Mitchell is a elite defensive big man. They have that in Mobley, but then you take Mobley out of the paint because you have to play him with Allen. And so just as a team that doesn't make sense to me, and I think they're probably just going to run it back. And you're right. It seems like if they're going to trade anybody, their reports are it's Mobley. And I frankly think Mobley should be the most valuable asset on the team. So we'll see. I just think they're in kind of a rock and a hard place where nothing they do or don't do is going to feel good. Like, it just, because they're pretty much pot committed to these four guys who don't make sense together, I just think you're pretty much in an impossible situation.
We will see what happens, but the Cleveland Cavaliers, I would not bring back James Harden under any circumstances. I'd just say, you know what? I'm sorry. You're just terrible at this point defensively.
He's 37. This agent thing, and I get it. I mean, I get what people say about it, I should say. But like, where like he's obviously, I'm sure he's with CAA or Clutch or some big agency, of course, right? All these guys are with the same 2 or 3 agencies for the most part. And like, you don't want to ruffle the feathers of the agent, but also like, for one thing, this feels like a fake threat to me. Like, our guys, if Cleveland just offers your guy the most money, he's not going to take it because you told 38-year-old James Harden to kick rocks. Okay, call their bluff. Just see what happens. And then, two, like as long as the agent is trying to do good business for themselves, like, you can realistically be like, okay, man, listen, like, this isn't about you. This is about the fact that your client is 38 years old, and we already are a team that's lacking defense because our superstar player is bad at defense and he's a small guard. We can't have another guy like this. And this whole time, all this was we knew this because the same exact thing was true with Garland, but he was under contract for longer. And so I just don't know. I mean, that we agree on the Harden thing, but they're inevitably just going to bring him back. Like, we both know it's going to happen. And they'll be the same team next year. They'll be a good regular season team that looks fun, and we'll both pick them to make the East Finals like we did this year. And then, then what? Then they're going to go and get smoked by whatever team it is next year, the Celtics or the Knicks or the Pacers or whichever team. They never lose in a good way. They never lose a competitive series. When they lose, they get destroyed over and over again. And that's because, frankly, I think when your roster is this kind of set into place and doesn't have some guy, like the Spurs are going to run the same 4 to 6 guys in their closing lineup for the next 2 years. It doesn't matter because they have an 8-foot tall guy standing at the rim all the time who can make 30-foot threes and pull up in transition. Like, it doesn't matter, right? And with this case, like, you are having to solve this jigsaw puzzle because I don't even think Jared Allen's a very good defender. Like, I think 3 or 4 great players are pretty much below average defensively for their position. And then, again, to keep harping on the same point for like the 96th time, you have an all-world defensive player who you then drag away from the rim because you play him with another center. It's just unbelievable. I respect what they've done because they've acquired so much talent, but like, these guys just don't make sense together. And you have to know that watching it. Like, they clearly do because they traded Garland. Like, they know. And again, if they were willing to bite the bullet on a guy they drafted and paid and liked and was good for them in Garland, they have to know when they watch James Harden, like, this doesn't work. Like, they're too smart. They're a smart organization. Like, I just crapped on Dean Wade. Like, that's a good find as an undrafted free agent. Like, he can play. Jalen Tyson was a late first round pick. He's good. Like, Dennis Schroeder, you basically got as a throw in at the deadline. He's good. Like, this is a smart front office that's just kind of pigeonholed into these four guys. And so I think you got to move off Allen. That's what I would do, just because I think you're clearly re-signing Harden, even if you shouldn't. And Mobley and Mitchell, again, I mean, I swear I really think these guys are two of the 20 best players in the NBA. And to trade one because he has the most value, as I guess would be the thing. I mean, who are you getting back? Is it for Giannis? I guess you talk about it. Like, if you can trade Mobley for Giannis, you can discuss it. And I think that's fine. But in terms of, like, the odds of that are obviously not high. Like, Giannis can only get traded to one team. He's going to have a heavy say in it. My guess is, being a Browns fan, that guy's not going to be like, I've just always wanted to go to Cleveland. No one's ever said that before in the history of sports. And so, he's probably just gonna be like, I'll just go to Miami. Yeah, they're going to be worse, but I get to live in Miami and don't have to live in Cleveland. Like, that's just kind of what happens. And so, if they trade him, it'll probably be some weird, stupid thing where it's like, we don't even, like, Jaylen Brown goes to Portland and it'd be some weird thing like that. Like, they're not going to get Giannis. Like, so I don't know. I just think that this is a team that if they do that, I just am out. And I think Mitchell would be next after a year by his own volition.
Fair enough indeed. Although I do like the LeBron to Cleveland in a sign and trade.
I just think that makes so much sense. And I get why, like, okay, Jared Allen's 28 or whatever. He's clearly good. He was an all-star 2 years ago. But he makes Mobley worse. And that should be what your franchise is about. Make Mobley, specifically because he's still only 24 years old, I think, make Mobley the best Mobley can be, because he is your future. Donovan Mitchell's amazing, and he might be your present and a little bit of your future, but really you should be building around Mobley. And they clearly said, kind of, we're not doing that with that Harden trade. If you were just worried about Mobley, you just keep Garland, and then you say, well, okay, well, I guess we'll trade Mitchell, whatever. Like, clearly they said Mitchell's our guy and we're going to build around him. But like, I just think that you have a player who is good but fits so poorly that I really truly believe he makes Evan Mobley worse. And LeBron is too smart to make players worse. We just saw him last year is, like, in theory, the worst possible situation to amplify what LeBron does well that he can be in. Like, and even that, like, by the end of the season, when they were all healthy, like, they were rolling, right? He figured out how to be the third apple. So, if you don't think you can figure out how to do that in a situation I think makes way more basketball sense, which is he's the third banana behind Mitchell and Mobley, I just think that would be foolish. And I think the Lakers would love to have a rim run big for Luka. Like, I just think that makes a ton of sense. And I don't think it'll happen because the Cavs are going to be too stubborn, I imagine.
We will wait and see, but Cleveland does need to do something, because I know Dan Gilbert, despite what he indicated with his comments just after the loss to New York, I think that their situation as far as the salary cap is concerned will be heavily on his mind as we head into the summer months indeed. But before we head on out, Calif, I want to go ahead and give you the opportunity to go ahead and plug your great work, the New Century Press, and also as well the Suave Report. What you got cooking up at both those sites, or what you working on right now as far as what's going on with Caleb?
Yeah, I'll have a column out this week sometime about this problem that Chet and OKC have. I think that it's an interesting talking point, and I think it's a really important one. So that'll be a column that have come out sometime this week. And then I think maybe starting this week or next week, my schedule is going to finally calm down here with the high school stuff. And I really like writing about draft stuff. And I think now that the Thunder are in the playoffs, the fans are probably going to be a little bit more interested, especially being they have a lottery pick. So I'm going to probably start maybe doing a couple focus in on guys that I really like in that range. The pair of Michigan guys, Lendeborg and Mara, Phylon from Alabama, Burries from Arizona, guys like that who I really just like a lot. And with Phylon specifically, I just want to do a lot more work on. But that's story for another day. So yeah, for this week, definitely look for that column because that's already. I'm just working on it now, tweaking some stuff. It's already been mostly written. So that'll be out sometime this week.
Looking forward to it. Once again, it is Calif Poncy. Please go ahead and stop on by his great work at the New Century Press and the Suave Report as well. Well, I'll tell you what, my friend, looking forward to seeing a hopefully competitive NBA Finals, but I know that you're a little bit despondent after what happened with the Western Conference Finals, but again, we got our money's worth when it talked about the matchup versus matchup, something we've been waiting for since December. And again, I don't think this will be the last time we'll be talking about this matchup. But any last thoughts before we head on out?
I don't think I do. Chapter one in the books goes to the Spurs. We'll see how it goes long term, I guess.
We will see. But again, it's Calif Poncy. Please go ahead and check out what he's doing at the Suave Report and the New Century Press as well. So thank you so much for joining us. I will be speaking to also Matt John and Legend 350. I might have more stuff going on. Yes, we'll do a live Lakers snack pack at some point in time this week. Has to be whenever Joe feels like it, which is always an issue. But of course, we will go ahead and make sure we got you covered this week as well. So again, for Calif Poncy, it's Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much again for watching, listening. Please like and subscribe. Make sure you're part of everything that we're doing right here at the Lakers Fast Break, and of course, the best in NBA observations.